Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name is Sean Wasker. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. It is the end of June, which means it's time for another movie review roundup. Now, it's not going to be as many movies as we did like in May because we already did kind of a mid-June review roundup with Ballerina and Dangerous Animals and Final Destination Bloodlines. And what was it? What was the other one?
We did Predator, Killer Killers, Life of Chuck.
Yep, and Life of Chuck. So if you guys want to know reviews for those, that video is already out. Check that out. And obviously, we have reviews out already for Jurassic World, Rebirth. So even though that's still not out yet, we already have it out. But everyone's dropping their reviews now. So yeah, we were like 5 days early. Everyone else is dropping them now. But anyway, we're going to be reviewing all the other big movies that came out this month. Bear with me if you guys haven't already heard it. I am under the weather. I've got some summer cold, so I'm going to do my best to try to mute myself if I cough or start hacking. But we got to get these shows shot. So it's the end of the month. So we got to get going.
Sean suffers for you, the viewer.
I suffer for your 30 views. More or less, it's Brian and I just love talking about movies, so we're going to do that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get this thing started. Obviously, when we were talking about the summer preview, there was basically 3 movies that we think we're just going to control and rule the summer. One was Lilo and Stitch, which tracking box office, it's doing exactly that. The other one was Jurassic World Rebirth, which will be coming out here, the next day or two. And then the third one was How to Train Your Dragon. Brian, did you ever see this or no?
I did not. I'll get around to see it eventually, but it was not in a hurry.
Okay, well, so this is just a Sean only review here then. How to Train Your Dragon. Love the animated series. Love 2 of the 3. I think the third one's just okay.
I still like it. It's not as good as the other 2.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not bad, but I feel like 1 and 2 were so good that we just like 3 just didn't quite hit the same level with me as 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But just like all animated films that are very, very popular, unlike with Disney, maybe DreamWorks is doing this now. God, I hope we don't do a live action Shrek. But we are officially now getting live action versions of these. I wasn't mad that we were getting How to Train Your Dragon live action. I mean, if there was one movie I'm kind of more okay with animated wise, it would probably have been this because dragons. I mean, hell yeah. Now, one route they went with this compared to all the other animateds, except for Lilo and Stitch, is that they decided to keep the dragons still looking like their animated counterparts. They didn't make Toothless look like fucking Game of Thrones or anything like that. They decided to still make Toothless look like Toothless and all the other dragons look like their counterpart dragons in animated form, just more obviously CG realistic and lifelike. And I will say this going into the review here, I think the only other cast that stayed the same was Gerard Butler stayed as oh god, I'm blanking on the dad's name. Stoic. Everyone else obviously recast. I think they got Mason Thames to play Hiccup, which most people know him from Black Phone. And then Nico Parker takes over for Astrid, which I know her from The Last of Us, but I know other people know her from other things as well. And then Nick Frost took over for Craig Ferguson as Gobbler. I always want to say Hobbler because he has 1 foot, but it's Gobbler. But
Gobbler,
anyway, what's that?
I think it's just Gobber, not Gobbler.
Gobber. Sorry, Gobbler, not Gobbler.
That's a different movie. That's a different movie.
That's a totally different movie. But anyway, I'll say this just to try to keep it not necessarily short and sweet, but just to not go too far into it because of my voice. I really, really loved this. And I think it actually, I don't want to say it trumps the animated because they're 2 totally different things. But the movie is longer than the animated. And I feel like in terms of that, they stretched some scenes out compared to where they were. Like, I remember at the beginning of the animated film, it's, this is Burke, and you're showing dragons attack the village, and you're kind of getting a lay of the land. That scene is a lot longer in this form, or at least it felt longer. Now, you're still getting the same beats. You're still getting some of the same lines. You're like, well, I remember, Jay Birchall doing that scene as Hiccup. But I feel like by stretching these scenes longer, it's allowing the human cast to get into their character roles more. Now, for Gerard Butler Stoic, I feel like they gave him more to chew on in this than the animated film, because once again, he's not the main character of the animated. But I feel like they gave him and Nico Parker's Astrid, and even Mason Thames' Hiccup, more time to develop these characters more fully, more lifelike. And I think it was for the better. It's about, I'd say, about 20 minutes longer than the animated, but I think it actually helped elevate the characters a little bit better. Not that the characters were underdeveloped in the animated film by any means, but it definitely, by giving them that more time, it's, to me, separated them from their animated counterparts. I wasn't looking at Mason Thames' Hiccup going, oh, I mean, you're no Jay Birchall. I was like, I saw him as, okay, this is Hiccup. And same thing with Astrid. I didn't think of American Ferrera when I was watching Nico Parker play Astrid. I was like, okay, this is Astrid as her character. Now, the Outcast group, like the other Dragon writers in training, they're meh. I mean, you don't have like Kristen Wiig and freaking Jonah Hill and all them. The actors that took over for these roles, they're fine, but they are the weakest part of the movie. But they were the weakest part in the animated film as well. I think Toothless looks amazing. I think he looks fantastic throughout the film. And unlike Lion King, you actually, not that there was a like lifelike dragon or anything, but they do still be able to sell everything through the eyes with Toothless. Like Toothless definitely, for most people, Toothless feels like their dog, and he definitely has that boy and his dog approach to the film. I think the action pieces in this are actually well shot. I think for the first 40 minutes, because it takes about 40 minutes for Toothless and Hiccup to actually meet, because like I said, they stretch the story out. I think for the first 40 minutes, I was like, it's all right. Like, I'm not hating this. I'm not loving it yet. But once Toothless and Hiccup take their first ride together, it is shot so beautifully, and it is shot so just like fantastical with it, that I was officially locked in at that point. And I really enjoyed the rest of the ride all the way through. I was pleasantly surprised with how How to Train Your Dragon live action. I think it elevates and builds on what the animated film does or did, and I cannot wait to see what they do with the sequel of this, because we all know we're going to get all three movies in a live action form. For me, 4.5. I gave it the same score I gave the first film. I really, really was impressed with How to Train Your Dragon, and if you go in with an open mind and not trying to do a compare and contrast to the animated, I think you'll enjoy it more too, because I think that's what I was doing for like the first 40 minutes or so. And then afterwards, I'm like, just watch the movie for what it is. And I think it was that first flight with Toothless and Hiccup that really kind of just finally took my brain and stopped comparing and just enjoyed the ride. And I had a fun time with it.
I will say, just because I haven't seen this movie, but you said that you think they'll do the rest of the movies, the remakes. I really hope that they bring back Cate Blanchett as his mom. I think it'd be great.
I would love.
And she would totally do it too.
Oh, she would. So I think for the most part, just like Kit Harington, I don't see him saying no coming back to do the one role unless they just want
Simon
someone
Hunter.
Exactly.
Any of them aren't kids, you could bring back.
Exactly. There's so many of the cast that they could easily bring back, and I think Nick Frost does a solid job as Gobbler. Right? He's not as good as Craig Ferguson, but he's also, I think, someone that will, with more meat on the bone, will definitely get better and better. I feel like he's probably the one that maybe could have gotten a little more time, but once again, he gets more time in the other films. But yeah, I was thoroughly surprised and happy with what we got. It's not like the normal Disney ones. It actually is good, and it helps elevate the animated film. Going to the next movie, it's going to stay with me, and that is Pixar's either Elio, or what's the other way you want to say it?
I don't, Elio? I didn't see it.
Elio.
Apparently, you must not have found it very memorable if you didn't remember how they said the name.
I'm just sounding it out as I read it. So that's just what it is. But Pixar's latest film, excuse me, trailers didn't really wow me for this. But it's Pixar. So I was like, well, I'm going to give it its opportunity, because Pixar, for the most part, for me, not Brian, I'd say it has about a good 84% success rate for me. I tend to like most Pixar films.
Pixar films, I will say, because I don't want people to think that I hate Pixar. I just don't hold Pixar in a huge high esteem that most people do. It's like, I think that a lot of their early stuff was great. I think that in the last 10 years or so, I have been underwhelmed. It's like I think that they're fine. I just don't love them, and I'm actually just not interested in a lot of them. But anyway, go ahead.
I would say probably since COVID, Pixar has really has not lost its way, but has really just not been able to grab us the way we used. Now they've had knockouts like Inside Out 2 and Toy Story 4 for me anyway. But I would say kind of Onward. Once Onward came out during the COVID era, everything after that was just kind of like I loved Elemental, but like Lightyear was fine. Turning Red, not my kind of movie. Luca, it's just those none of them were really just hooking you.
Well, see, for me, even before that, you had stuff like Up, which didn't do anything for me. Coco, which a lot of people love, it didn't do anything for me. So I was like, eh.
I loved Coco. Up, I think, has a phenomenal 10 minutes, and then the rest of the movie is just kind of
sucks.
It is what it is. I mean, they all can't be WALL-E and The Incredibles or Toy Story, which to me are just like the top fucking tier. But Elio, however the fuck you want to say it.
Mario.
Mario. It's fine. It's not. It's the first movie in a while that made me go, this doesn't feel like Pixar. This just feels kind of like that time frame in Disney in the early 2000s where it's like, we got to make an animated movie. Let's just make one. And it's not like going to wow people, but we got to at least get something else so people remember Pixar. The cast is fine in it. There's no one that really stands out. The story, the message, which is always kind of Pixar's bread and butter, it doesn't really do much in this. It feels very much like I would say this, by Pixar level, this feels like more like a straight to streaming for me. The story isn't memorable. I honestly, like I said, watched it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, and I had the general thought of what it is, but there's nothing in it that is making me go, oh, that was great. It was just more, I watched it, I was like, yeah, okay. That was what that was. It was exactly what I expected it to be based off the trailers. Animation style wise is fine. It just didn't move the needle for me the entire time watching it. Animation wise, good. Voice cast is fine. Story, very C-level for Pixar. Very C-level story. It just doesn't do much. It's more just about a kid who lost his parents and wants to feel like he's part of something. And he thinks the only way to do that is to get abducted by aliens. And once he does, he finds a family in a way when he doesn't realize that he's had a family all this time. Hello, Pixar. I see your story. It's just that it doesn't really do much, especially kind of when you also had Lilo and Stitch come out last month, which is, in a way, kind of the same fucking story, but it's got the past Lilo and Stitch to build off of. So for me, I gave it 3 stars. It's not bad. It's just not memorable. It's one of those that you could watch, kind of like Luca, and then in 6 months, you're like, oh, wait, that was a Pixar film that came out this year. What was it? And you just completely forget about it. Like I said, not the worst thing in the world. Definitely not the worst animated film by far that's come out this year. It just lacks any memorability that Pixar usually brings to the table. Going to the next review. Once again, staying with me. I'll eventually get a rest here at some point. There's another movie that came out this month that Brian had no interest in seeing, and I barely did. It was mainly for the leads, the Materialists. We both have our thoughts on Dakota Johnson. We both aren't fans of her. We both don't really care for her acting much at all, but we both like Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal. And the trailer for this actually did intrigue me enough to want to watch this because while I'm not the craziest fan of Dakota Johnson, I'll gladly watch Pedro and Chris Evans in a...
I almost saw it for those two, but then I started hearing reviews of it. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not in a rush.
Yeah, it's like, I'll gladly watch those two fight over Dakota Johnson just because I want to watch those two. I want to see how they interact and mingle together. I want to see that story. And the review buzz that I've been seeing, let's put it this way. The way I feel about this is probably how everyone feels about how I'm loving Jurassic World Rebirth. I feel like everyone else is just kind of like, eh. And I'm like, yeah. Whereas everyone's like, yeah, for this. And I'm like, this fucking sucked. Like, I did not like this movie at all. And once again, the main problem is, and it's going to be something that I always talk about when it comes to horror movies, rom-coms, anything like this. If I can't like the lead character, I have a hard time buying into the fucking story. Dakota Johnson's character is unlikable as hell. She knows she's unlikable as hell. She even calls herself out on her own bullshit. And on top of that, she's like, I know I'm a horrible person and I'm not going to change. So deal with it. And it's like, cool. If you don't like you, I don't like you. So why do I want you to be happy at the end of this movie? And that's the whole point. It's called the Materialists. And like, yes, Sean, that's the fucking point. It's like, yes, I get that that's the point. I didn't get lost on me what the point of this movie was. But it also doesn't make me want to like it either. Because you got Chris Evans, who is this likable guy who wants to be an actor, who's kind of doing that thing where he's like, oh, I'm a waiter on the side, and I'm doing this and this just to make a living, and he just kind of still lives with roommates. But he was with her for a point, and they were in love. But guess what? He was too poor for her, so she broke up with him. And then here's Pedro Pascal, who's richer than fucking everything. And, you know, it's Pedro Pascal, good-looking dude. And he wants to be with her. But guess what? Money isn't everything. You got to love that person too. And it's like, okay, you don't know what you want. You don't want to be with Chris Evans because he's poor, but you don't want to be with Pedro Pascal because you don't love him. So you just want to kind of just, you know, mingle these guys around. And the problem with this too is that I was excited to see how Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans were going to play off of each other. They get 2 scenes together in this movie. And I think clocking it less than probably 2-3 minutes total do they interact with each other on screen. And then it's just Dakota Johnson all the way through. And like I said, she's a very unlikable character. Pedro's mainly in the first half of the movie, and then Chris is kind of more the second half of the movie. And at the end of the day, the way the movie ends, it's also just an unlikable ending. I'm not going to say what the ending is. I'm not going to spoil it. But it just pissed me off the whole way through because you kind of like, both these guys deserve better. And outside of Dakota Johnson just being attractive, because she is attractive, I'm not going to say that. She's good looking. Her character lacks any like likability traits other than looks. Like, I don't like her personality, don't like her humor. Her mindset on everything is atrocious. Apparently, according to this world, if you're short, you don't deserve to be loved because she's a matchmaker. And her whole thing is, he's got to be at least 6 foot and have a 6-figure contract. If he doesn't have that, then it's not worth it. So cool. Apparently, I'm not deserving of love because I'm under 6 foot. I don't make 6 figures. Fuck you, movie. Because that is literally, I don't know how many times they dropped that in the film. There's at least 4 times that they mentioned this guy is not tall enough to fit the criteria of what these women want. Or they don't make enough money for what these women want. AKA, I get it's called Materialist. But it just doesn't make a good movie for me. It's unlikable as shit. But Pedro and Chris are both good in it. So I'm going to give it 2 stars. But goddamn, I hated this movie. It's one of my least favorite films of the year. And I don't have any interest to ever want to resurface this and rewatch this ever again. Now we'll go to a joint review.
Cool.
Yes, Brian gets to talk finally. We've got Deep Cover on Prime. Brian, take it away so I can rest my throat.
Which most of you probably haven't even heard of, because I hadn't heard of this movie until a couple weeks before it came out.
When the trailer dropped, yeah.
Yeah, because it's an Amazon Prime movie, and it was not one of those Amazon ones they put in theaters first. It was just going straight to Prime, which I very easily could have overlooked this, except that it had Bryce Dallas Howard, Orlando Bloom, and Nick Mohammed. Nick Mohammed, you might know as, what's the character's name in Lasso?
Nate the Great in Ted Lasso.
In Ted Lasso. So I actually really enjoy Bryce Dallas Howard. I think she is a ton of fun in anything she does, with the comedies, in dramas. I think she's very good. With the Jurassic World movies, I enjoyed her in. But the problem is she has moved kind of into directing. She's done like a lot of like episodes of Star Wars TV shows. She's done some documentaries. I think she's probably going to do a feature.
She's really good at it.
And she's good at it. Yes.
Yeah, she's good at it.
But the problem is that means she does less acting, because except for this and Argyle, I want to say she hasn't had a major role in a movie.
Jurassic World.
Not counting the Jurassic World movies. She hasn't had a major role in a movie in like 10 years, like going back to like Pete's Dragon. And she was like the mom in Rocket Man, which is a small part.
She was in Martian too.
Well, that's 2015.
Yeah, I know that's
Yeah,
Matt's.
that's what I'm saying. It's been like 10 years. She's like kind of only appearing in a couple things. So I liked seeing her in this, especially in something like a lighthearted comedy, because that's when I enjoy her the most. I think she has a really fun personality. Nick Mohammed, I'm not as big a lover as Ted Lasso as most people, but I do enjoy the show. He's essentially playing the same character here. He's kind of like he's quiet, awkward kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that's all he can do. I don't know. I've never seen anything else he's been in besides Lasso in this. But then Orlando Bloom is having a fucking blast in this movie. I skipped right over. Basically, what the movie's about is there's these three improv actors, comedians. She's basically teaches a class. She wanted to be an actor, but like she kind of getting passed up. Her students are getting on auditions and getting parts, and she's just stuck kind of being a teacher, like it's not happening for her. And the other two are people that are taking her class. But
don't undercut Orlando Bloom's character. Orlando Bloom's character wants to do serious acting.
He wants to do serious acting
for a pizza commercial.
Yes,
but he wants to do more. He wants to be like Daniel Day-Lewis. He wants to embody the role of the person.
Yeah. Well, I'll get into Orlando Bloom in a minute here. But Sean Bean basically recruits. He decides he's a cop and he's trying to get into like the London kind of the underworld, the gangland, the mob. And he decides to try this thing where he wants to use improv actors to help him use stings, essentially, because he needs them to get in and get information or get them to say something so that they can come in and make their arrest and things. But he needs people that can think on their feet, can change it. So he thought, oh, improv actors, this is a good idea. And of course they get in over their heads, and it's a comedy, wackiness ensues. It's fun. But yeah, this movie I had no expectations for because I had never heard of it, because it was just getting dumped on Prime, because it has a kind of a bland title, and the trailer was okay, enough to get me to watch it, but didn't blow me away. But I'm like, okay, this will be some throwaway thing, and I watched it, and I really enjoyed this film. I think a lot of it is because of the performances of the three leads. But like I said, especially Orlando Bloom, because he's playing this guy, like you said, he wants to be this serious actor, but it's just not happening for him. And just seeing his desire to be so serious against like the wacky situations he has to be in, especially when he has to play against Nick Mohammed's character. I think that it is just a ton of fun, and the chemistry of those three leads totally worked for me. And so this is one of those things. Spoiler alert: this is gonna be actually on my surprises list for the half year, because
might as well
because this came out of nowhere, and I hope more people watch this, because almost nobody I know, like on Letterboxd, there's Sean and two other people I know have actually watched this movie. So I hope more people check this out, because it's actually a lot of fun.
What'd you give it?
I gave it 3.5.
Yeah, I also gave it 3.5 for everything that Brian just said. I also love Bryce Dallas Howard. I would love to see her in more things. She's always a joy to watch, whether it's a drama, comedy. I really love her comedy. She was also in a Black Mirror episode, but I think that was early Black Mirror. But I hated the episode, but I loved her in it. Nick Mohammed.
Oh, that's one of the social media one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she's all about the likes and everything. Like the lower the likes, the less like higher up in class you are and shit. Nick Mohammed is basically playing Nate in Ted Lasso, almost to a T. So I hope he doesn't get typecast into that. But if that's all he can do, then that's all he can do. Yeah, the highlight of this is Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom is the reason why I gave it a look in the first place, because of the trailer. Orlando Bloom's like, oh, dude, he's going to have so much fun with this. And he does. He is a joy to watch in this movie, because he is just he's the wild card. He's the loose cannon. And you can just see that he is just chewing up this, and he's gobbling it down. He loves what he's doing. And I love the moments when he is being super serious, and then he breaks and becomes his real self and just has these conversations. And it's like, and then he has to go back to being hard. And it's like, dude, if I could get this Orlando Bloom in every movie, I'd be so happy.
Well, I'm so happy for him, because he had that, when he first kind of hit, he was in, Lord of the Rings, and he was in Pirates of the Caribbean, kind of all within a couple of years. And it's like he just kind of hit big, and then he got some parts in other movies. This Kingdom of Heaven, there was Elizabeth Thompson. But then kind of after that, it kind of burned brightly for a short time, and he showed back up in the Hobbit movies. But I won't talk about that. But I'm saying outside of those franchises, he's never really gotten to have a lot of success, especially in the last few years when he kind of fell into like a direct to VOD kind of crowd. It's like, obviously this isn't a big theatrical release, but it's at least like a good strong movie with a good, rest of the cast, and I hope he gets more good parts like this.
It's one of those movies, kind of like Josh Hartnett last year when he did oh my god, M. Night Shyamalan's movie Trap, where it's like, holy shit, I forgot about Josh Hartnett. Is he back? And now he did Fight or Flight and stuff like that, where it's like, we kind of all forgot about Orlando Bloom. Not because he's forgettable, but it's just because he did all that stuff that you said, and he hasn't really done a lot lately. And here he is now. We're like, oh shit, is Orlando Bloom back? I hope he's back. I would love for him to be back, because if he's bringing this to every role, I want more of this.
Well, I think what's making this possible too is like I talked about in my review how this is this reminds me of like the touchstone in Hollywood pictures from like the late 90s and the early 2000s that they just don't make anymore, because they don't make mid-budget movies anymore. They make the big budget blockbusters, and they make like the small kind of indies or low budget horrors or things like that. And it's kind of this mid-budget area where a lot of these people can really shine, and there are a lot of fun movies. And so if Amazon wants to go and corner the market on that, I'm all for it. Make more movies like this.
And I would be totally okay with watching these three go do a sequel. I'm gonna have to figure out how to change it up a little bit, because I don't want to do just the exact same thing. But I would love to see these three characters do stuff again with each other, because I really enjoyed the chemistry between the three. But yeah, definitely a surprise. Was not prepared to I was prepared to watch it and go, okay. But I was like, I'm having fun. I'm having fun with this, and I really, really enjoyed this movie. But yeah,
it's one of I planned to put on kind of in the halfway in the background while I was doing other things. But like 5 minutes in, I'm like, nope, I'm watching this.
All right, going to our next film, we've got a movie that I still think they should have waited till it was actually 28 years later. Because I think it's like 25.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think because when did 28 Weeks Later come out, or did Days? It was 2003.
Days was 2002 or 3, I think.
They should have waited till it was actually 28 years. I'm sorry, guys, but we're talking about 28 years later. I will say this: I don't say I'm not the biggest fan of the 28 franchise. I just don't love it like a lot of people do. I thought 28 Days was good, and 28 Weeks was even with the cast. I just didn't really care for 28 Weeks. But the reason I gave a crap about 28 Years is because our boy Aaron Taylor Johnson, I like Jodie Comer, and Ralph Fiennes. I like all three of them, and putting them in I know they're not zombies, but a zombie-esque kind of film. I was intrigued to see the hell out of this.
To be fair, I think it's Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Somebody actually calls them zombies in the movie, so it's okay to call them zombies.
Okay. I just know it's a rage virus, and it's like, okay.
They aren't technically zombies, but they call them zombies even in that world. So.
All right. I mean, was that your thought process going into this as well? You just kind of
I never loved the other two. I think I saw the first one and I thought it was good, but one of those things that like people raved about, and I'm kind of like, it's fine. Weeks I actually enjoyed more than most people. I didn't love that movie either, but I think there's just I liked the cast better, and I liked there's a little more action to it, a little more kind of story. But again, it was nothing spectacular, and I assumed that the franchise was done. They come back like 20 years later. I'm like, I don't really care. But like you, as soon as they announced the cast with Aaron and with Rafe, I was super interested. I'm not big on Jodie Comer. I don't think she's a very good actress, honestly. She's fine, but I don't care for her much. But I wanted to see this based on Aaron and Rafe alone. Yeah.
So what were your thoughts?
It was okay. I kind of put it on par with the other two. There were things in it, like especially like imagery wise. There's some really good stuff, like especially that whole I don't know if what he's in is called the Bone Temple, because I know the sequel's called the Bone Temple, but whatever it is he constructed with the bone towers and things like that, that looked really cool. I thought that a lot of the cinematography was great.
You want to know why it looked great? It's because you know who the writer was, right?
Oh, Alex Garland?
Yeah, his movies always look great. Even though he wrote this, he didn't direct it, but he always has that visual, same thing with like Annihilation. Alex Garland movies always, whether we like him or we don't like him, they're going to look fucking great. But yeah.
Yeah. So I liked the way it looked. The story was fine. I would have rather, not followed the crazy mom as much, or I'm sorry, the dying mom. Ralph Fiennes, he kind of came in late in the story, but I feel like he's going to be more in the sequel. My problem is the bait and switch because the main reason we went and see this movie was Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then he's only in the movie for like the first half hour, and then he's essentially not in the movie. They cut back to him once or twice later in the movie.
Which, once again, just like Ray Fiennes, he'll probably be in the sequels. So,
like, if you made this,
yeah,
if you made this with Aaron Taylor Johnson and his son going, across, their adventures off in the mainland, that would have made the movie so much better for me than having it be the kid and his mom. It's like, come on, I don't care about the mom. She's dead weight. I know she's kind of like the reason the kid's out there and all, but it's like like I said, I don't love her acting. I didn't care what happened to this character, honestly. So I want to say disappointed, but I wasn't really that disappointed because I didn't have huge hopes for it. The only reason I was excited for it was for those two actors, and I got those two actors. I just wish I would have gotten more of, especially Aaron.
Yeah, had I been a bigger fan of the 28 series, I would say, yeah, I'm disappointed. But it's hard to be disappointed when you're like, I didn't really care for the first two as much. I can tell that where they're good. I just don't really. It's not movies I ever went back and rewatched once I saw them the first initial times. But I was like you. Yeah, I wanted to see Rafe and I wanted to see Aaron Taylor Johnson, especially in a zombie movie. And like I said, I like Jodie. And I feel like I just wasn't prepared for the story that we were going to get.
I wasn't prepared to see the alpha. Holy shit.
I wasn't prepared to see so much dong in the
That's what I'm talking about.
My
There's a reason he's the alpha.
It's like everyone was freaking the fuck out about Nosferatu, and when they got to see his dick for like what, a split second.
This guy's were knees.
I haven't seen this much, dick in a movie probably since Spartacus or Game of Thrones.
Well, it's funny because they made
like it doesn't even. It's not even like it's one thing if it's necessary. I don't feel like it's necessary.
Well, that's just it. They made such an effort in this movie because a lot of the zombies are infected are partially or fully naked as they're running around chasing them. But they're kind of dirty and bloody, and things are covered strategically, or they're in shadows. Or there's especially the women. I'm pretty sure that at least some of them were like wearing like a bodysuit because I couldn't see nipples on them. I just kind of saw the shape. But it's like they seem to make an effort to not be nudity, even though the characters were technically nude. But then this guy, nope, every time we show him, we're gonna show his dong just swinging.
Yeah, it's like you need to know he's the alpha for this reason, not because he's a big motherfucker. It's because he's hanging brain, and it's one of those things where it's like they just decided to make all the zombies feel more like just native savages, and like the rest of the people are like, we're the Englishmen, and the zombies are Native Americans. They're just savages. They can't communicate, and they're just wild and violent. But then here's this one guy, Ray Fiennes' character, who's a doctor who can deal with them, and they don't fuck with him for some reason. And but he's too off and weird to be with the regular people, so he just kind of lives like he's kind of like a hermit. So it's just like it's like I see what you guys are trying to do, and I don't know if I'm fully on board with this because you didn't have to do it that way. That's a choice that you guys did it that way. And then you had like kind of almost like Zombieland. Like you had these fat like slug ones for some reason. It was just like, okay, like
it felt for me like I don't have Xbox, so I never played, but like Left 4 Dead, where they had there was this class of zombie is like the fast runners, and this fast is the ones that explode, and this class of zombie is like, why is it like that in this world when everything else in this world has just been like infected people are crazy?
Well, yeah, because it's 28 years later, but they basically all went like, and granted, even if you go like Last of Us, which went like 20 some years in the future, the world's still the world. It's like they didn't go back to the fucking like 1800s, and start acting like back prairie days. But that's what this movie basically kind of does. And I was kind of all on board for the first half or the first act when it was just Aaron Taylor Johnson and his son as like a rite of passage.
I was digging the first act, yeah.
Yeah, I was digging that. And then they go back to the camp, and then it becomes a story about a boy and his mom, which I'm not against that, but also it's just like, so really we're not going to get Aaron Taylor Johnson anymore? Like, it'd be one thing if he was like, I'm going to go chase after him, and then it becomes a story of him trying to catch up with them and them kind of maybe growing back together as a family. No, fuck it. Aaron Taylor Johnson's just like, oh, my son and my wife are gone. Okay. It's like, what? No, what the fuck are we getting here? And then Ray Fine comes in like the last 30 fucking minutes, which he's great in that last 30 minutes, but why couldn't we have them in throughout the whole fucking movie? And it's just the story itself is not bad. It's not a bad story. It's just not the story I was prepared for, and it's not the story that I was like intrigued to watch. And the ending is so like all the way the fuck over here. That's like, I get that they're setting up.
Oh, the very ending? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That is a whole different genre. It's like we went from 28 Days, and then we're adding like Guy Ritchie.
Zombieland. They went to Bridge Zombieland. Yeah.
It's like Guy Ritchie. Like we're adding like Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels cast into a zombie film, because it was like, this tone is all the way the fuck off the reservation at this point. Like, I don't even know what the fuck is this the same movie? Because it's like we were telling kind of like a story of a father and a son, then it became a story about a son and a mother. It was a beautiful story, not the story I wanted. It's a beautifully well told story and well acted. Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, I think he does a great job for a young actor. And it's like, okay, the story ends, and then it's like, oh no, we need to tie it into a sequel. And this tie-in, I'm like, you're not really selling me on the sequel for this. Like, I'm not really liking or enjoying what I'm seeing here, because it's such a drastic shift. You know, it'd be like if you're watching like the Avengers, and then in the last 10 minutes, like, and we just went to animated. It's like, what the fuck? Why? It's like, what is this? Oh, that's how the sequel's going to be. Okay, well, I don't really care about that. And so it's like, what we got, the visuals, dong aside, like you said, like the bone temple, whatever you want to call it, I think all that visually looked great. I think everything in the movie, visually, cinematography wise, looked great. I don't think there was any real bad acting till the very, very fucking end. So I mean, I would say it's the better of the three films, but that's not saying much. I gave it 3.5. It was fine for what it is. I'm not necessarily super excited to see the sequel, unless you're going to give me some more Aaron Taylor Johnson. But if it's going to basically be this boy with this other group, I'm not really rushing to theaters to want to check this out. What did you end up giving it?
I give it 3.
You gave it a 3.
And the sequel does at least list Aaron Taylor Johnson. So I don't know how much he'll be in it, but he'll be in it.
I figure what we're going to get with him in the sequel is what I said they should have done, which is him chasing after and trying to find his son. And that's what they're going to do for the whole second movie for him. And it's like, you should have been doing that fucking, from the get-go. If this is a journey movie, okay, put him on the journey already. You don't make it seem like he's sat at home for a fucking week and then decided, okay, now I'll go search for my son. Because that's what it makes it sound like. And it just doesn't work.
Tell you this. I was just looking at the Bone Temple cast. The character names, because they have Jack O'Connell as Jimmy Crystal. They have Erin Kellyman, who was in Solo, and she was also in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the freckled girl.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
She plays Jimmy Ink. There's other characters that are Jemima, Jimmy Jones, Jimmy Snake, Jimmy Fox, and Jimmy.
So they're all Jimmys.
They're all Jimmys, which Cillian Murphy's character is. So, coincidence? I don't know. Because he's listed.
I know he's supposed to be in the third one.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be like a tag in at the end of the second one, like how they did with this. He'll probably show up at the end of the third.
But I don't know what the whole Jimmy thing is. Anyway, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, go to our last movie. The movie that Brian calls the most dad movie of the year.
The dad movie is dad movie that ever dad movied. That's what I call it.
We're talking about F1. Brian and I have both been eagerly anticipating this movie. Not that because it's about race cars, because we're not big race car fans.
I can care less about all racing. Yeah.
Yeah. But race car movies are fun though. But it's mostly because of, is it Joseph Kosinski?
Kosinski, yeah.
Kosinski, yeah. Which is the same director who did Top Gun Maverick. And obviously the wonder and the amazingness of Top Gun Maverick was not just the cast, which was great, but it made you feel like you were in the cockpit with the team as they were flying through and shooting the movie. And it was breathtaking to watch, especially in theaters. And now we're putting the same crew in F1 racing, which is obviously more dangerous and scarier than NASCAR. So and then you add Brad Pitt to the group as well, and I mean,
also bringing in from Top Gun Maverick, you're bringing in. It's produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, which his movies have a whole like look to their own too. So
yeah, so it has all the my brain just went bleh.
Ingredients.
Yes, all the ingredients to make this actually a really worthwhile thing. And we even said this during the Jurassic World review, is that if we felt like there was gonna be a movie, at least Brian said this, if there's a movie that's gonna crack the top 3 between How to Train Your Dragon, Lilo, and Jurassic for the summer box office, he thinks it's gonna be F1.
Oh, I didn't think it was gonna crack the top 3. I'm saying that's a dark horse to be like up there like number 4.
That's what I'm saying. If you thought that there was gonna be one that was gonna be a surprise and come up in 10, it would be F1. I think it's gonna be more Superman. But yeah, F1, like I said, it has all the ingredients to be awesome. So what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't care about racing at all. I don't like NASCAR. I don't like anything, and especially F1, which isn't even big in the US. It's more of a European thing, or it might be worldwide. I don't know. I don't pay attention to the shit. So I don't care about it. I like Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt playing a race car driver, okay, whatever, maybe, sure, I'll check it out. But then once you add in, you get the same team from Top Gun Maverick. You get Joseph Kosinski directing. You get and bringing the way he filmed, flying. You're going to put that in the car world too. You get Jerry Bruckheimer in there with kind of the whole look and feel of films he does. I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued. The trailers looked about how I expected them to look. Especially if you got to see them on like a big, just even the biggest screen you can, whether it be an IMAX or just a big screen or in a Dolby theater or something like that. It definitely, you could tell they filmed it in such a way that's going to put you in that car and make you feel like you're really there. So I was like, definitely want to see this movie. And I went and saw it, and I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I'm not going to call it a perfect movie. I'll jump to the say I give it 4 stars out of 5. But I enjoyed the hell out of it. I think it's a perfect kind of role for Brad at this age, at this stage of his career. Javier Bardem is one of those guys who I really like him. He just makes a lot of movies that I don't give a shit about.
And I'm kind of inclined to agree. Like, I like Javier. I don't necessarily like the movies he does.
Yeah,
I loved him in Dune, and I loved him in No Country, and I like him in this. But I'm like, I can't think of anything else I really like him in. But I like him as a person.
I don't care about No Country. I'm not that impressed by it, but I think he does.
I don't care about the movie. I don't care about the movie, but I love his performance.
He was in Skyfall. I didn't actually even love his character in Skyfall, even though I actually did like that movie. I didn't love his character, but I thought he was very good in the Dune movies. I think are good, but not, like some people love them. But great. But I think they're good, but I think he is definitely one of the best parts of them. But then he goes and makes things like, Little Mermaid and, a lot of his independent movies. And of course, a lot of the ones he makes, like, he still makes occasionally like Spanish movies, which is probably not going to draw me in. But I do like him all the time, no matter what he's in. I thought he did a great job. Damson Idris, who I've never seen before that I'm aware of. Has he been in anything I've seen? He was in The Commuter, apparently, and Outside the Wire. And Megan.
I remember I tried looking him up, like, because I was like, oh, is he going to be one of our rankings for Breakthrough of your award thing?
Yeah, this essentially is
really anything that popped up for me personally for him outside of like TV stuff.
Yeah. No, I thought he did a great job. He kind of, playing the typical, kind of the young, cocky rookie guy to go up against, Brad Pitt's grizzled veteran. I thought he did a great job when he was doing Carrie Condon or Rebecca Ferguson. Who knows anymore because they look so much alike, especially in these movies. I think she did great. Sean made a great observation. I'll let you talk about that.
I will say this about Joseph Kosinski as a director. He knows how to make his leading ladies look breathtakingly gorgeous. He did it with Jennifer Connelly in Top Gun Maverick. He did it again with Carrie Condon. Because, like, Carrie Condon's a very attractive woman, but I've never been like, damn. Until I saw her. I'm like,
it's not like they're like dolled up and it's looks like
no, they're very natural looking, but the way he just shoots them, he makes them look amazing.
It also helps you start with Jennifer Connelly and Carrie Condon.
Well, yeah, because I remember when we were watching Top Gun Maverick, I was like, I know Jennifer Connelly's a very beautiful woman, but I don't think she's ever looked as beautiful as she did in Top Gun Maverick. You're like, I'm kind of inclined to agree, and I'm doing the same thing with Carrie Condon. So, Krasinski, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But yeah, you're right. Like Rebecca Ferguson and Carrie Condon, I was like, yeah, I can totally see I can see them like if they
It's
put them
funny
in
that I never really
together.
thought about it until, for some reason, until this movie. I never really made the connection, that at least not that I know of. But then like I saw, because the reason I saw somebody else talking about it, and then there's like all these tweets or whatever of people saying like, I just realized today that they were different people. They were two separate people. It's like, I can totally see that. I'm okay
Now
with that.
you just got to put them in a movie as sisters,
Yeah,
and then just
you
let
don't
it
need to do
go.
that. But yeah, this movie, like I said, the cast, great top to bottom. The story is kind of your typical story. Like you got the old veteran, you got the new rookie who he's brought in. They're supposed to work together, and they have to, obviously conflict, and then they learn to work together, and then everyone wins, and you're happy. So the story was enjoyable, but nothing particularly unique. But what really made this movie so much fun is the experience, because, like I said, they do an awesome job of putting you in the races, in the car, where you're feeling everything, literally feeling everything. I went and saw this a second time yesterday in a D-box theater where they have the seats that turn and they'll rumble and shake and all
How
that
did
kind
that
of stuff.
go for you?
Well, though I find those things to be super gimmicky and often just kind of silly and distracting. Because like the only other time I ever saw a movie in that, because there's now one in my town, I went and saw the movie The Gray with Liam Neeson, and it was in the theater that had those things. The problem is most movies, there's no reason for it. And the problem, and they don't even like, I understand if if you're flying, if you're driving, things like it works for it. Because I would love to see like Top Gun Maverick in the theater like
I would say I'm surprised you didn't do Top Gun Maverick that way.
but I have to drive like an hour and a half or an hour 45 minutes to get to a theater that has this. But like during just like a dialogue scene, the seat will start floating or shaking. It's like this doesn't make any sense. Back when I saw it in The Gray. But for this movie is exactly what is the exact kind of movie this is perfect for, because when you're in the driving scenes, every time it crashes, you'll feel the seat jolt like you crashed into something. It was a lot of fun. But even without those kind of seats, just watching this movie, it really feels like you're there in it. It's exciting. I think it's super well done. For people who don't know anything about racing like me, but beyond drive and the circle and try to beat the other guy, this, I think it does a very good job of kind of telling what you need to know, but without being super heavy on exposition. I do feel like the commentators now and then were a little heavy into that kind of thing, which I felt like they were explaining things to the audience, but they would do that on a broadcast.
It felt. I will say this about the commentators, because that was something that pointed out to me. It felt very much like when you watch a baseball game. Now, if you watch ESPN on baseball on ESPN, it's like, okay, here are two commentators. They're hired to do this. This is ESPN's people. They don't have a horse in either race. And then you have you watch like a local one. Like if I'm going to watch like the Reds, and it's like, okay, these are the Reds announcers. They're going to be cheering the Reds through this. I feel very much like the announcers were very much like the local for Brad Pitt's crew, because they were really fucking invested in his crew and like cheering him on. Like I was like, I'm pretty sure they have no business to be talking about these characters with the rest of the race going on, but we're focused on them for some reason. It's like I feel like they're very much the announcers for this group.
Well, to be fair, we're watching like a 5-minute segment of like a 5-hour race, so it's like they're just showing us the parts they're talking about them.
But it felt like they were getting super excited. I'm like, aren't they like in 15th place? Like, why are we focused on these people? Like,
yeah, there were definitely times where it felt like they're going a little heavy, like especially like early on when they talked about like the history of him. Oh, remember when this happened? Dude, it's getting like, okay, this is just exposition for the audience, but I'm okay with it because you got to set everything up. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I mean, not that because I didn't think it was going to be bad. I was happy that I enjoyed this as much as I did, and it's become one of my favorites of the year so far.
And you gave it, you said 4?
4. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, there was no way it was going to match Top Gun Maverick in terms of its visuals, because being in a cockpit and seeing, the mountains and the ground, like there's just no way they're going to do that. Visually wise, everything looks great. It's not Top Gun Maverick level. So if you're going in expecting Top Gun Maverick, you're not going to get it with F1. It's still probably one of the best shot race car movies ever. But I wasn't necessarily fully like in time. I'm going, oh, I was just like, okay, yeah, like this is really, really cool. Because most of the time you're watching it from like the back of their head, or you're watching like it from the face, like every other race car movie. So I'm like, okay, like I also felt this way when I watched Ford v Ferrari, which was fantastic as well. But I wasn't like, it didn't give me that Top Gun Maverick feel. it still looks great and visually it's great, but it just didn't give me that moment with them. So it didn't hook me the way it hooked me with Maverick. Brad Pitt is playing Brad Pitt. If you see Brad Pitt, you know what kind of character he plays, which I'm fine with because I fucking love Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
totally
like
cool
Brad
with
Pitt, but I will be the first to say he doesn't have a lot of range. He plays himself in almost every movie. But so does like Jack Nicholson, but he's still great in his. He picks roles that fit him, you know.
And Ryan Reynolds and Tom
Yeah.
Hanks, and it's like we love them for reasons, and that's because they don't stray too far off their norm. Chris Pratt's another one, but it's one of those things where I loved Kerry Condon, Javier Bardem. I feel like they were trying to set up too much stuff at one point. Because like they're trying to set up a subplot with like this female like pit crew person, and then they're trying to set up this
subplot. That was gonna go somewhere and
it
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a subplot of like the older dude who like has his family there. Like I thought that was gonna come back to some like Brad Pitt or someone was gonna get pissed at him because he like brings his kid into like his kid and his wife into like the garage, and they sell like they shouldn't be in there kind of thing. And then at the very, very end, they add this whole new subplot of oh God, what's his name? The dude with Javier Bardem. I'm blanking on the actor's name. Tobias Menzies.
Oh, the board guy?
Yes, they add this whole new subplot of what's gonna like right before the end race. I'm like, was this needed? I don't think this was needed. I don't think we needed to have this extra added subplot because it amounted to nothing. Same thing with side spoilery. All of a sudden, Brad Pitt starts to get dizzy right before the big race. I was like,
and
okay, well,
that's into play. Yeah,
like that's gonna come into play. Never fucking did. So it's like they just.
I do feel like they have like a 4-hour cut of this movie because there's also there's an actress called Simone Ashley who you've probably never heard of. She was on Bridgerton. She was in a movie I talked about earlier this year called Picture This. She's like a British Indian heritage. Beautiful woman, beautiful. But she apparently had a whole role in this movie that was filmed, and like her entire role was cut out of this movie. So, and I think it probably had something to do with her and Damson Idris. So maybe there was something with her and him, and then the blonde pit crew member comes like a third.
Yeah, it's just
I don't know, but I feel like there's a lot more to this movie that was cut out.
Yeah, and so it just kind of stood out. Like, why did we do this, or what was the point of this, or was this necessary? So I feel like there was just a lot of added shit put in when literally the story should be just very basic, which is veteran driver who never made it. Young hotshot who isn't even really a hotshot. He's a young driver who's about to get fucking fired. So he's not even like this like Top Gun guy where it's like someone needs to come in and corral him. It's like, no, it's like, look, he's about to get fired. You might come in, you might be able to help. And then of course you have that typical storyline where it's like he's cocky and abrasive, he's cocky but he's knowledgeable, and they're gonna clash. And that plot's fine. It's fine. It doesn't bring anything new to the table, but the race car stuff's entertaining, and it's just you're watching it and you're like, I don't feel the stakes never get as high as they're supposed to be in the movie. I think they keep the stakes relatively low. Now for the people in the movie, the stakes are very, very high, but compared to other race car movies, the stakes are very low compared to other films. I know it's a lot of negatives I'm giving and a lot of nitpick, but I did enjoy the movie. I did really, really like the film. I don't think there's any real bad acting in the movie at all. I think everyone is solid. I think Idris, I think he has a solid, for me, breakthrough debut for us. We all know who he is now. We're all going to pay attention to this kid with everything he does next. Kerry Condon is great. Like you said, Brad Pitt's great. Javier Bardem is great. The race car driving is enjoyable and exciting and fun. It just, like you said, if there is a longer ass cut of this, there's a lot of subplot that is thrown in for unnecessary reasons. There's the whole manager subplot for Idris's character too, where it's like I felt like that was going to go somewhere and it really fucking didn't. So it just feels like there's a lot of stuff that is just thrown in that is not needed, and they could just made it tighter. But if there is a longer cut and we're going to maybe get that cut, okay.
Well, the thing for me is like I don't know if we need that longer cut with all these other storylines because I feel like they don't want to throw too much in there. But if that's the case, cut it out completely.
I
Don't
agree.
have Brad Pitt suddenly get dizzy if you're not going to address that later, you know?
I agree, because I was like, I don't think we need it either. But if you're gonna have a longer cut of it, then okay. But at the same time, it's no different than a Zack Snyder film where it's like, why are we having all this? Oh, it's because he has like a 4-hour cut coming out. Okay, cool. Then don't have it for the 4-hour cut. Don't leave like this loose end that makes
Yeah,
no
don't
sense.
cut 95% of it and then leave
5%. Exactly. Yeah. And that was kind of the thing that was like holding me back on it. Now, I also still gave it 4 stars because the experience of it is really, really good. But in terms of like my expectations to what I got, did not match. Now, it's no by any means a disappointment for me. It's not. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I'm going to be talking about it when we do our half-year review. But I didn't love it as much as I wanted to love it, if that makes sense. And I think it's because of these little things here or there where it's just like, it could have been better. It could have been tighter. But still a very, very fun ride that deserves to be viewed on the biggest screen possible. But those are our reviews for June. We hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys did, hit that like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to comment below. Let us know what were your thoughts on these movies. Did you like them, dislike them? Did you get to enjoy them as much as we did or not enjoy them as much as we did? Let us know in the comments below. Coming up next, it is July, which means that the first half of 2025 is in the books, which means Brian and I now have our 2025 half-year review where we go over the best films, the worst films, our disappointing and our surprising films of 2025 so far. Gives you kind of a landscape of how we think the year is going already and where we are looking at towards the last 6 months of the year. That'll be coming out here shortly, so be on the lookout for that. Also coming up this week, obviously Jurassic World Rebirth. Our review is already out on the channel, so check that out. But we also got Heads of State comes out this weekend, and Old Guard 2 comes out this weekend on Netflix, and Heads of State is on Prime. I feel like I'm going to have to rewatch Old Guard before I watch Old Guard 2.
They actually come out tomorrow. They come out Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know when we're dropping this. So,
4th of July.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't remember a lick about Old Guard. So I'm probably going to have to rewatch that before I watch it.
You know what? I was going to rewatch it, and I might still, but even if you don't, I just saw today they dropped a video on YouTube of like
a recap
of Charlize and Uma recapping the Old Guard.
Okay, I might just do that because that'll save you probably like 2.5 hours right there. So I might just do that. But we all hope you guys have a fun 4th of July. Like I said, we'll be back here again with our review for the first half of 2025. I'm Sean Waskrew. That is Brian Michaels. We are the Movie Crusaders. Until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.